Oh my God, they're actually doing Knull the Symbiote God in Venom The Last Dance. The new trailer just dropped. I think it's the final trailer for the movie, and I wanted to do like a breakdown of everything that's in it. But honestly, the only thing that's really worth talking about is Knull the Symbiote God and the fact that young Peter Parker is seemingly still in this movie as well. What is Sony doing? We got a lot to talk about. This is absolutely crazy. So we're going to break it down in this video, and then I'm going to go live. So come by the live stream, because there's going to be questions, comments. Sony gonna Sony. Is Knull the leader of the Sinister Six now? Okay, so let's break down the trailer and then talk about what the hell is going on here. So it starts off with that usual trailer before the trailer kind of thing, showing some of the action of the movie, and we get a little taste of what it's about. We then cut to a funny sequence on the plane. You see people from inside the plane looking out. There's this lady that looks at Venom. Venom and Eddie Brock are on the outside of the plane. Venom says, "I told you we could fly." Eddie's like, "How does Tom Cruise do that?" So a real cheeky comedy scene while they're flying on this plane. But then, of course, they're attacked by this friggin' creature right here. And the scene ends with them falling off of the plane, falling through the sky. And actually, this was kind of cool, man, with the musical cues here. It was kind of fun. And we get a back and forth between Eddie and Venom, where Venom's like, "You're not gonna like this," and Eddie's like, "I can guarantee you I'm not going to." And then we get that other dialogue from the previous trailer of Venom saying that his home has found them. But this is where it gets new and it gets crazy, because then Eddie's like, "Who sent that thing?" And it's the monster that was on the airplane. And then we get these crazy ass shots of Knull and what appears to be Clintar. Start with these crazy shots of what appears to be different symbiotes suspended in animation, and they seem to be either underwater or in the core of a planet, as the shot kind of pans up into a floor where we see in the background a creepy ass throne and more of those insectoid creatures going around. And if you're a big comic book fan, you instantly knew that that was Knull, right? Talking about who sent the creature. Venom even says, "My creator." You see the different symbiotes suspended, and then you see the throne. It's like, oh my God, dude, they're actually doing Knull the Symbiote God. Then we see some shots of like the military base and this operation, right? This whole thing with the other symbiotes that they've gathered on Earth. We have dialogue from different characters here talking about how the symbiotes didn't come here on accident. They were actually running from something. Then we get like more exposition, like what were they running from? And then we cut back to this sequence of Knull the freaking Symbiote God on his crazy ass throne. And then they go all freaking in, showing us Knull from a side profile, and he's holding something with thorns, but there also appears to be some kind of crazy energy that's there. And then we even get Eddie Brock being like, "What's his name?" And then Venom kind of like mumbles Knull. Eddie goes to say it, and Venom like covers up his mouth. So this guy's kind of like Voldemort, where you don't even want to say his name. Then we get some other shots of Venom, but the voiceover here is really important to understand. You have Venom explaining to Eddie that we have something that he wants, he being Knull the Symbiote God. And then you have Toxin, who's a very important character here as well. And Toxin is explaining to the people that have the other symbiotes that as long as Venom lives, everything will end. You have kind of a funny sequence where Eddie and Venom knock a dude out that was peeing outside of a building in Vegas, and they steal his suit. I think technically the guy kind of pees on Eddie and Venom as well, which is pretty disrespectful, so it kind of makes sense that Venom wanted to f him up. You then get kind of a montage sequence here that's talking about how Venom and Eddie have been through a lot, and this leads in to other characters saying that as long as they are together, everybody else is kind of doomed. And then you get this response from Eddie where he's like, "No, I need him though." And so it's like almost a love story, really, if you think about it. They're talking about how Eddie and Venom have been through all this stuff together. They have this bond, but apparently if they stay together, it threatens everything because of Knull and some other thing that's not really clear. We also get a shot of a fish with the Venom symbiote on it. So a Venom-fied friggin' fish, which is cool. And again, the point is emphasized. This world can't survive if you stay together. And then Eddie's like, "But I need him." And we get a lot of awesome action here with Venom fighting against these creatures, Chewie to tell Ejiofor, and that whole organization fighting against the creatures as well. And I think this is where you might see different actual symbiote suits attached to people and have that in the action here as well. We get another shot of Eddie adding the venom to the horse, which is going to be visually really cool to see. Now, there is still a shot of Eddie on the road with this guy who technically played the friggin' Lizard. This guy played Doc Connors in the old Spider-Man movies. And we get this shot of Eddie with this child in that same van. And this is kind of weird. Like, in the original plot leaks, this was a young Peter Parker, okay? And there's a lot of reasons to believe that a young Peter Parker is still a part of this plot. But I don't really understand how that's going to fit into what's going on with Knull and what's going on with Venom in general. I do have an idea about that, but for the purposes of the breakdown, I have to bring this up. Like, I got to talk about this kid being in here because it kind of seems like they're doing a young Peter Parker thing, and it's like, what? And the old man in the van goes on to give Eddie Brock and Venom some advice. The character's apparently named Martin, and he says there comes a time in every man's life where you have to make a sacrifice. Then we get this really touching sequence where you have Venom and Eddie, and they're like on a beach or something like here. Maybe like some kind of crash happened, and you get this weird like God and Adam moment with Eddie Brock, you know, going tip to tip with Venom, and Venom tells him, "I'm with you to the end," and just kind of showing that they have that bond, and maybe they're gonna go sacrifice themselves now. We cut into a sequence where Eddie's on the motorcycle, he Venoms up, and he's still fighting one of these creatures. The trailer ends with a funny bit where Eddie Brock and Venom go to gamble, and they really enjoy gambling. It makes them feel really good, but then they lose their money. Venom gets furious. He wants more money because gambling feels good. And he also breaks Eddie's foot. And that pretty much concludes the trailer. And again, I think it's a cool trailer, but it's really just all about Knull the Symbiote God and a little bit about that other Peter Parker. Like, what the fuck? So what's the deal here? Knull actually in the movie. That's crazy. And of course, Sony deserves a lot of criticism for like putting Knull into the third and final movie of a trilogy. That's really freaking weird. But let's just be real. This is just the beginning for Knull the Symbiote God. I've been told behind the scenes that they want to set up Knull as a big bad, like they're Thanos, and that's freaking awesome. And by the way, just from a visual perspective, it feels like they are nailing that aesthetic here. Remember, Gore the God Butcher is awesome in Marvel Comics. He actually has the all-black Necro Sword, which was created by Knull the Symbiote God, but Marvel Studios was terrible with Gore. Gore sucked in Love and Thunder, right? So like even Marvel Studios can take a badass villain and kind of screw it up. I think there's a chance that Sony could establish a badass villain and actually have it be pretty good. And I don't really expect Knull to be a huge part of this movie. I think most of the movie is going to be on Earth. I think Eddie Brock and Venom and potentially all of these other symbiotes and, you know, Chewie Ital, who originally might be fighting against Venom, I think at the end of the day, they're all going to team up against Knull's minions because it seems like that's a really big freaking deal. And I also believe that this whole idea of like sacrifice and the fact that that world can't survive if they remain there is going to lead to the end of the movie where Venom and Eddie Brock are actually going to leave that universe. We've actually already seen this scene. It was in one of the first teases or maybe the first trailer, and you see Eddie and Venom disappear again like they did in No Way Home and in Venom 2's post-credit scene. So that's happening again, and I can't help but think it's connected to what's going on with Knull. Trust me, I'm going to make more videos about this. I'm actually super excited for the potential here. I'm really hoping that it leads to some really cool stuff with Sony and the multiverse, and potentially even Spider-Man 4. But of course, it's all about the execution, and Sony's going to Sony, and they've not been doing well, right? So look, maybe this movie will be badass, and we'll be like, yo, like, I want to see more of Knull, and hopefully they do a better and better job with Knull and don't have him just pop up and recruit the Sinister Six and be like, I don't know, has something to do with Spider-Man, I guess. I also will say this movie definitely seems really messy. There's a lot of plot here, but if it can just sort of be all blended together with badass action and emotionally arced with Eddie and with Venom and them wanting to be together, but them being together causing a big threat and problem for the planet, like, that's interesting, and that could actually fuel a lot of fun for the film. Might end up being a good narrative device, but there's a lot going on. Like, it seems really messy, and that includes the young Peter Parker. So, like, Did they scrap the young Peter Parker thing completely from this movie? Is that now gone? And this kid's just going to be a part of that scene right there? I don't know, because in the first trailer, you can actually see that kid in the end sequence action scenes. So is that a young Peter Parker? Is Sony sticking to that? And in fact, is that what Knull is after? Are they going to connect this to the anchor beings? Are they going to connect this to Spider-Man specifically? And is Sony also setting up their own Spider-Man that will be involved in Secret Wars and potentially something beyond Secret Wars with Knull the Symbiote God? Or am I just getting way too freaking sweaty and nerdy on this thing? You let me know. I mean, to me, the possibilities are so cool. So Knull the Symbiote God confirmed for Venom 3. I'm more excited for the movie. Are you more excited for the movie? Because that's what Sony's hoping, right? That's what they're hoping. And I think it's a good thing that they're not going all in on Knull, probably just kind of teasing him, setting him up for other stuff. There are already insiders on Scooper saying more Knull is coming and potentially, you know, multiversal kind of stuff with Knull. I think it's cool, man. I'm excited. I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comment section below. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.